Well, welcome back to the Disciplined Troublemakers podcast. I'm your host, Scott Shigori. Here on DT, we talk about scaling technology companies and helping CEOs do this with greater ease and flow. Today, we're going to be talking with Earl Foote. He's the founder and CEO of Nexus IT Consultants, an MSSP based in Utah. He's also a 3X founder on the Inc. 5000 list. Nexus Consultants provides white glove IT support and services specialized in outsourcing IT support, cybersecurity, compliance, and cloud solutions. Nexus also offers managed services to organizations of all sizes and in every sector. The company was also ranked this year, here in 2024, number 41 out of 154 Utah businesses as a top place to work. So nicely done to you and the team. Earl's also a huge music enthusiast with his own band focused on jazz, if I'm not mistaken, from my research. He also loves slushing down the slopes, and Utah does have some pretty good snow for doing just that. Today, we're going to be talking with Earl about the challenges and the opportunities around scaling IT and cybersecurity companies. Earl, thank you for carving out time today to chat with us, and welcome to the Disciplined Troublemakers podcast.
Scott, I really appreciate the invite. I'm looking forward to spending some time here with you today and with your audience. One correction there, and that is that the band is a rock and roll band.
It's a rock and roll band. Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Jazz is probably too technical for us. That's like the pinnacle of musicianship. You know, the entire band is made up of tech execs or tech founders, and it's a hobby. It's for fun. You know, none of us take it overly serious, and I would say our talent is relatively average. Jazz is a little ambitious for us.
That's fair enough. I'm a huge jazz fan, so it's always just fun. Like rock and roll as well. I tend to focus on in both genres the classics and so forth like that. I do have to ask before we get into the quote unquote serious questions here.
Sure.
You've got a number of guitars in your background for those who are just listening as opposed to watching it. He's got a couple against the wall. I'm curious, how many do you have, and are they something that are old friends, or are they the sort of thing you like to trade in or just find something new and it's always an upgrade and kind of a fun chase?
Yeah, total guitars between basses and, conventional six strings, 20, 25 in that range. I have, some here at the office, some at home, and some actually at our lead singer's house, where we generally practice every week at his place. So I just leave some equipment there.
Yep.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, my voice is
quite all right.
Giving me a problem here. I'm kind of a collector, so there's probably a few guitars that I have sold or traded or something like that, but for the most part, there's some memories that are part of those, just bands or gigs or songs and that kind of stuff. Even the very first guitar that I ever bought, my son, my 21-year-old, my youngest, has that guitar now. Because he's a bassist. I'm mostly a bassist as well. And he likes to noodle around with the six string, so he has that very first pawn shop guitar that I bought when I was a teenager, right? Most of them are still around. Scott, and these are in my office here at our headquarters, and there's another 6 or something going that way that I have, kind of a decoration up here on the wall.
Yeah, no, it's always nice. It's kind of fun. There are those who do like to, find the latest and greatest thing. We're both obviously in tech and know people who are, always wanting the most current thing. I am like you, not with guitars. I have absolutely no musical talent whatsoever. So I focus on some other stuff, motorcycles or other things where I tend to hold on to them for a long time. They become old friends, and it's a situation where, like what you mentioned, it's stories, in my case, journeys of various sorts, memories of that sort of thing that are always the most powerful for me. And it's always nice just to simply have them around, even if, like, with the winter months, I'm not going to be riding as much, even just to clean the thing or something like that. It's always a lot of fun to do. So
yeah, cool. Sounds like a good hobby and a good thing to collect. Yeah.
Yep. Nope. Yeah. There's it's good fun. Well, if we go ahead and transition, obviously into tech and into business and so forth, I obviously provided what I hoped was an accurate and comprehensive intro. But in a few sentences, what's your company either doing now or developing now to help obviously as an MSP or MSSP, depending on which title you like to use more, for your ideal audience, given, the challenges that they happen to face. I noticed in the email that you had sent me yesterday, you seem to be partnering with Acronis, the company based in Singapore and Switzerland, respectively, and they've obviously been growing a great deal over the last 20 years and more recently with all the money injection that they've been getting. But I figured I'd start there just to kind of lay the groundwork for things with what you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah, very good, Scott. I appreciate the question there. And by way of clarification, we consider ourselves an end-to-end MSP, MSSP, which essentially means that we outsource, the basics of IT needs for small and medium businesses and medium enterprises, and we also outsource cyber and compliance solutions and services. So it's kind of an end-to-end service offering and stack, along with all the talent and all the automation and things that we've built over 26 years of being in business, in a IT tech stack and in a cyber tech stack. And we could get a lot deeper there, but you asked essentially about what sort of problems we're solving today, and Scott, I think tech always is in the midst of disruption, right? Innovation, which is one of the exciting things about it. It's certainly one of the things I've always loved, since I started in business at the age of 23 in tech in this business, we're always there's always a level of risk of you being disrupted by the innovation that is happening within the space. And certainly there's a level of risk for your clients. And that's where we feel like we do really well, and we focus so that we can add real value to our clients and the agreements that we have with them. Right now, certainly we all know, the emergence of generative AI becoming, mainstream and popular a couple of years ago with ChatGPT. And now all the periphery sort of AI innovations that are happening are front of mind for everybody, and everybody's trying to figure out how to leverage those to do what they do bigger, better, and faster, and how to not be disrupted by them. But additionally for us, and so we're keeping a tight pulse on that and developing our capabilities, and certainly in-house, using a lot of AI tools and automation and that kind of stuff to do what we do, better for our clients. But beyond that, Scott, really in business today, in the realm of cybersecurity and compliance, there are some significant drivers that are really beginning to change that landscape and making building those practices and taking it seriously are really mandatory today. We primarily focus in upper SMB and lower mid-market, in regulated industry, healthcare, finance, construction and development, professional services, and stuff like that. In today's world, businesses, particularly in regulated industry, they are obligated by, compliance regulations to have real robust cyber and compliance practices within their organization, and they're obligated to attest to those very often on an annual basis through formal assessments or audits. So you've got, regulatory bodies that are driving a lot of change, within industry. You've also got vendor management and data governance, from upstream vendors. So when you're trying to land business with larger potential vendors, generally now they're being very careful about who they contract and the data that they have access to, because so often in today's world, ransomware attacks and breaches come by way of a third party. You think about the HVAC contractor incident at Home Depot. Granted, that was some time ago, 8 or 9 years ago or something like that. But Home Depot had massive amount of records that were hacked due to an HVAC contractor that that they had hired, right?
Yep.
And so those downstream providers expose significant risk, and larger, more sophisticated companies are they're driving the up-leveling of cyber and compliance practices, to make sure that any vendors within their ecosystem are not exposing their clients and their proprietary data, to risk. And then you've got, of course, cyber insurance, where, insurance providers today, we've gone from what was a simple one-page application to get cyber insurance to now a 50-page application, and you have to have third-party attestation, showing that what you are attesting to in that application of your cyber and compliance practices is accurate, right? So you have these kind of major drivers, and then the other is just the threat landscape and how quickly it evolves, and how now bad actors, threat actors are using AI, we call it weaponized AI, right, to do what they do, bigger, better, faster, right? And we use benevolent AI to detect that stuff, and to neutralize it, and then to bring it front of glass for human threat hunters that can then make smart decisions, on the data and on the intel, and decide what to do to help a client there. So there's those major drivers, and we're staying very tightly attuned to what's happening in our clients' industries, and what solutions that they need to solve the problems. And we create turnkey capabilities for them, so that we can simply go in with a package of solutions, a tech stack, and all the services needed to solve those problems for them, and just plug it into their business, right, and make it very simple and easy for them. And then we manage, and we're accountable for it all, and we report to them on all of the things that we do for them, on a monthly and quarterly and annual basis, and we help them strategically plan and all that kind of stuff. So it's we're just continuing to develop our capabilities and the capabilities of our team in cyber and compliance. Building out more SOC capabilities and more compliance consulting services, through fractional CISO services, pen testing and vulnerability assessment, and I could go on and on, right? So it's just a matter of understanding what the needs are, and then upskilling our talent, or hiring new talent that has upskilled themselves, so that we can address those needs. And then obviously with the turnkey sort of tech stacks that we build, we have to continually add in new products that are helping to innovate and pioneer and solve problems, while we strip out sometimes some obsolete or older pieces of technology that are no longer really relevant. So hopefully that's helpful.
No, that's definitely helpful. And I think for the audience, and certainly for me, it's going to resonate in a couple of ways. The two quick comments I'll make is I was talking with a team yesterday, and they were highlighting, or the CEO was highlighting, because they're focused on generative AI, particularly for the government space in a couple of areas, and are growing very rapidly, and expect that to continue. Just that, we're about a year away from China being very well prepared to basically unleash what will be quite a remarkable set of attacks and things like that, and that being prepared. And I think it's really helpful for the audience to hear what you guys are doing. Yes, it's in regulated spaces. Yes, there is regulation and compliance driving it, but it also means that within those industries, there's an awareness around the strategic and competitive, and I'll even say brand value of doing that, where so many wait until they've been attacked. And there are lots of comments about, or kind of surveys that you saw this year, where in certain places or industries, there was less, there were fewer attacks because people were better prepared, and yet instead of preparing for the next wave, they've said, we're going to hold off spending, we're going to cut our spending, in part because we think we're okay and we haven't been attacked this year, which to me is a kind of remarkable admission of where you are. But then just even for other firms, whether you're in the, the MDR space, the XDR space, all those kind of spaces, as to how exactly you're kind of competing and either the opportunities or the struggles that you basically experience depending on industry focus, who and where you are. You said you guys are in the small to medium-sized business or mid-tier, basically above that. So again, it's just what field do you want to play on? How do you want to, what does your playbook look like? And a lot of that dictates in terms of both what you're going to be successful at, but whether or not you've really got some I'll describe them as headwinds, whether it is forced compliance, forcing you to care about these things, but yeah, it's just, I think, a powerful reminder of exactly how important that is, and not to wait until you've been, penetrated for 200 days and they've basically been able to remap or have a landscape map of exactly what your customers look like too. It's just, to me, it's kind of crazy, but that's where we are for many.
Yeah, so much to unpack there, and some really accurate comments. Overall, Scott, I think that's you started off with a very important point, and that is that being very serious and sophisticated about having true cyber and compliance practices is a competitive advantage. It is a differentiator, and it is a strategic decision, right? We very often have companies come to us that have a larger organization in their sales pipeline, enterprise level, or call them mid-market, sort of level businesses. Yep. That wants to do business with them, and they are asking them now for their data governance, all their GRC policies, and for penetration testing and all that kind of stuff. And they come to you, wanting to get compliant, in a couple of weeks, so that they can land a big fish in the pipeline. And the reality is if they haven't been doing their work, then it's a 9 to 12 month process, to get a business really prepped for something significant like a SOC 2 audit, right, or something like that. And so, of course, we've found ways to help them keep those fish on the line and begin to do business with them, through some basic early attestations, and then some roadmaps and plans to get them fully compliant within 6 to 9 months or something to that effect, right? Mm-hmm. But it is when I talk with other business leaders that aren't in technology or aren't really intimately familiar with the cyber and compliance landscapes, I'm always talking to them about, look, you have to strategically think about this, and you have to think about, when you're bidding for something, right, a contract that's, there's 3 bidders or 5 bidders, if you can be that one standout that they know they can trust with their data, the likelihood, even if you're not the most affordable, right, the likelihood that you're going to get that contract is significantly improved.
Yeah. And I think it just, like so many things in life, generally speaking, even if you grit your teeth thinking or walk into it thinking it's just, quote unquote, in air quotes, a checklist, it does require you to cross T's and dot I's. It does ask some pretty either foundational or other questions that are valuable and that you probably don't want to try and answer, or you may not want to because, again, it's just perceived as one more friction point and not as a differentiator. It's a cost as opposed to a strategic differentiator. So, I think always worth emphasizing, even though many already know what the answer is. It's a bit to me anyway, like fitness, where we all kind of know what we should be doing, but we occasionally need to be reminded of the value of it and to get it done and to take steps in that direction. Cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What does, in terms of even, the next 12, 18 months, what does scale mean to you guys and the team? It often can mean different things to different people. I think you've highlighted it in terms of how you've positioned yourself and so forth. But, in the ways that you're talking about it with your team, or if you've got a board and so forth like that, or partners like Acronis and things, how do you guys even, do you think about it if that needs to be the angle, or what does scale look like to you and the team over the next 18 months of what I would think would be opportunity, even if there are bumps in the road?
Yeah, very good. So, for us, Scott, and I appreciate you, mentioning, which is a very meaningful accolade for us, being voted as the 41st top workplace in Utah out of 154 companies. And those are the type of accolades that we really put meaning into around here, because that's all based upon employee feedback, right? But beyond that, we are a high growth managed managed security service provider, which is not super typical. Nationwide, when you look at industry stats, the average growth rate per year over the last 6 or 8 years has been 8 to maybe 13% per year industry-wide, right? We're currently growing at 93% CAGR. 45% of that is organic, and then the balance of it is inorganic through M&A, right? Through acquisition, and asking our colleagues to come and join us, in building, what we are calling a super regional juggernaut, right? So scale for us looks like, staying very in tune with what our clients need and how we solve problems for them, and then using scale to be able to do that better for them. We're currently, and I believe I'm accurate in saying this, but in Utah, actually, we're the 28th fastest growing company in Utah. We are the largest locally owned and the fastest growing MSP in Utah at the moment, when we're reaching out well beyond Utah now in client footprint and employee footprint outside of Utah, in the Intermountain West, and some major national markets as well. And so scale for us, one is continuing to expand into adjacent markets, and then national markets where our clients have presence and need us. Two is continuing to look for great colleagues out there who want to join, call it a bigger brother, and be able to leverage the capabilities of a more mature 2.5-decade-old MSP, MSSP, that has a lot of capabilities that we can bring to bear for our clients. That a smaller MSP has a challenge in solving those, right? Particularly in the cyber and compliance space, or in projects and some of those kinds of things. And so, continuing to grow through M&A, and then continuing to invest in our organic engines to grow. But it's not just about growth; it's about growing responsibly, growing our people alongside, the growth of the organization, and growing in a way that we can actually add more value and do things, better for our clients, right? That's really what our focus is. In the end, we are in business because our clients, believe that we add value to their business. And so for us, we're always looking at how we innovate and do that to a greater degree, and how we help them more, right? And that most certainly is, expanding our products, our services, our talent, and then their abilities, and expanding, and innovating through tech, right? So that's what scale looks like for us, over the next 18 months and beyond. We've done a lot of pretty fun and meaningful things, Scott, and we're quite bullish and excited for the future as well.
Yeah, no, that sounds really interesting. I normally ask kind of offline as opposed to on, and obviously share what you're comfortable with in terms of either talent or from an M&A roll-up perspective, et cetera. What are you looking for in terms of either team / company and or then individual talent, vCISOs, other sorts of either individuals or small teams in, I don't know, a particular area, wherever you'd like to go with that. I think it would be interesting to my audience, and then also interesting and potentially helpful to you and your team if again, you're comfortable sharing that here.
Yeah, sure. I'd be more than happy to. First and foremost, we're looking for good quality business and operators, quality teams that fit well with our culture, and our philosophies around here, our core values, right? We are a purpose-driven, organization that believes deeply in our mission and our vision and our core values, and how we show up for our clients and our people. Culture is extremely important to us. So, the first things we consider are, is that other entity a really good cultural match, and are their core values and the way they behave, and the way that they show up for their clients, and their people, are those a priority to them like they are for us, right?
Yep.
Beyond that, we start to look at the strategic things, right? We look at where do our clients have, a footprint right now where we don't have physical footprint. A lot of that is Intermountain Western region, but in, again, other major national markets. So we're looking along the Eastern Seaboard, we're looking along the Western Seaboard right now, for colleagues who are running awesome businesses that just want to take them to the next level. And then strategically, we're also looking at the capabilities of that organization. Can they enhance or improve upon the things that we do? Do they have talent? Such you mentioned BCSOs, certified ethical hackers, CISSPs, really good, trained, educated, cyber and compliance talent. We're always looking for that type of talent to enhance, and there's a massive nationwide shortage in that talent pool right now.
There is indeed.
So, for us, acquisition is not just about growth of revenue and EBITDA. It's about growth of talent that you can't necessarily do 100% organically, right? And then, predominantly we are looking for organizations that have developed great capabilities and specialties in regulated industry. Our number one client sector is healthcare, number two is finance, and then we have, a myriad of others. So we're looking for, healthcare and finance focused MSPs and MSSPs, to come join us and build something even more meaningful together.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's helpful. Part of the reason why I asked as well is I do talk with, given the number of cyber professionals here in the Washington, D.C. area, I inevitably talk to periodically, and it's always nice, and I appreciate the sharing here because there are a number of them, either solo shops or other smaller groups who are specialized in particular areas, or they're doing other sorts of things. And inevitably, even if it's just a warm intro to let you guys go chat or something down the road, I think that would be always, it's always helpful, even if there isn't a match at that particular moment. So
for sure, we like to connect with our colleagues regardless. It's we can always learn from each other, and a great amount of our success and growth has come from being in peer groups and mastermind groups, with our colleagues and collaborating and helping each other understand, how we're creating success or what challenges we're facing and how we're resolving those challenges. I really enjoy connecting with our colleagues. Whether there's an opportunity or not, it doesn't really matter, right? It's just about connecting, creating relationships, and seeing where those lead in the future.
Yeah, no, and that sounds fair. I'm a member of two mastermind groups, one focused around biz acquisition, another one on branding and marketing, for myself as well as then for sharing with others. And I echo your comments where they are hugely powerful, even if there isn't, necessarily a deal to be had, there is a relationship that is, enormously valuable to create. And then on top of that, you just get to meet, like-minded people who care about similar things. And often it's a conversation about values and opportunity. It's not always immediately about, a business opportunity, which I think is great for laying foundations over time. It's just, plus it's fun too. I have to say it's fun to go chat with like-minded people, whether that's, again, in a nice geography or it's just around the corner. So fun stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. What do you? I'm always curious to ask because I think it's both a nuance and also something where it's a cool perspective to get from people who are eyeballs deep in a particular industry or sector, which is that you're a significant MSSP with what you've described. Do you think, or what do you think is maybe the most misunderstood? Or what is most misunderstood by the market today about either what your company does or how you guys go about doing it, whether that's from a prospect coming in, or it might, again, be from agencies or regulatory groups and things like that? Because I think oftentimes there's so much noise in the cyberspace. There's a fair amount of noise in the MSP space, broadly speaking, with just people carving off different pieces. But I'm curious, you've been doing it a long time. So what do you think is most misunderstood about what you and your team do?
Yeah, I think it centers on a couple of things, Scott. The term MSP, managed service provider, or even managed security service provider, outside of our industry, in even as recent as the last decade, has not been known that well, right? So a lot of business leaders, and executives, when they're looking to find a partner to help them with their technology or with cybersecurity compliance, they don't really go looking for a managed service provider. They're looking for IT support or something like that. And so the first kind of misnomer is that a lot of buyers of these types of services, they think that all you offer is basic help desk, as needed sort of ad hoc, help desk, capabilities, and they don't necessarily understand the real world business problems that you can solve for them and outsource for them in a turnkey manner, right? I'm a firm believer in business of focus on your core, and then let other people who have developed very real expertise focus on the things that are not your core. So in other words, I'm a firm believer in outsourcing to parties who have turnkey processes, who have great reputations with being able to deliver on needs of a business that are outside of your core capability, and that's where a managed service provider or managed security service provider can really come in and provide significant value for an organization. I think one of the other big misnomers is that we are only there to unseat internal IT or cyber teams, and that's actually a pretty big misunderstanding, and it can create some conflict or some misunderstandings when you begin to work with an organization who has internal IT and or cyber teams. So we do a lot of what are called co-managed agreements. A lot of contracts with again larger organizations in that SMB to lower mid-market sort of space, that they might have an IT or cyber leader on staff, and they might have some engineers on staff, but those that team, one, may not have enough bandwidth to do everything that they need to do. Two, may not have all the capabilities and proficiencies to solve all the problems efficiently that business needs to solve, right? And three, they may not have expertise in some things, like projects that they need to get done. And so we love our co-managed arrangements. In fact, that's really where a lot of our growth has come in recent years, is moving further upstream and in the market, and being able to solve challenges for larger, more significant organizations where we work very much in tandem, very much collaboratively with those internal leaders and teams. In the end, we look at it as it's our job to make them look like the heroes of the story. It's our job, to make them look good in front of their bosses, And so when we can create, great architecture and deploy it quickly for them, and, we can support it well, and we keep their uptimes going, and it's secure and robust, and they're not having outages or breaches, and then ransomware and that kind of stuff, they look great, right? And they can consistently, report on all of the great things that are happening, and not, the negative things that oftentimes come with technology. And so that's one of the, a big sort of misunderstanding. The others are really, kind of in that cyber and compliance realm. And if you're not, if you're not a technologist who has really gone deep there, for the majority of business leaders, most of it's very misunderstood. They don't understand, one, the depth of the threat, right? And they don't understand oftentimes the actual requirements that are, again, regulatory bodies are pushing down, or other, other drivers or influences are pushing, right? And so, helping businesses and organizations and leaders navigate all of that, because it's complex, right? It's not easy, right? And so, I think that's a place where we can really add value, and it's something that's quite misunderstood by a lot of business leaders. And they just think that it's it's super simple and easy. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna we're going to put in a firewall and antivirus, and we're good to go. And it's like, yeah, I'm sorry, but that is not adequate cyber posture, today. And it's not me who says that. It's, again, these regulations and just the reality of you have to have this multi-layered, approach of, anywhere from 6 to maybe 20 or 25 or 30 controls that all include tech solutions in place to be able to secure your data, right? And make sure that you're adequately monitoring and deploying the right policies and managing your people resources correctly from a technology perspective and all that. So it's complex. We enjoy it. It's a lot of fun for us, and we really enjoy being able to help our clients, up level there, and certainly, when we can help them go, well, we went from, being pretty casual about our cyber and compliance practices to, hey, we're now SOC 2 compliant, or we're HIPAA compliant, and we have third-party attestation, and we can walk to opportunities, or just think about our strategic expansion differently because of we now are better equipped to protect data, right? That's really what we dig about our working with our clients.
Yeah, no, and I think there's obviously the work involved. You've talked extensively about that. I think it's really valuable too. It's great, and I'm sure it comes from your core values around making your client the hero of the story, where there are so many cyber firms in particular, tech in general, where they often end up sharing the story in a way that makes them the hero and turns their client into a victim, and particularly in cyber with so much of FUD, or fear, uncertainty, and doubt, as a way to try and compel people to make decisions and move forward with stuff. And yet, paradoxically, fear is the greatest paralyzer of decision making that we have, essentially, or it comes very close. And it's just a very human response. It's not something that we can just easily program out of a culture or a team, or hell, even a person. So I just think it's enormously valuable, and something on a personal level with the work that I do. It's always, for me, trying to be a guide and always allowing my client, that tech CEO or whomever it might be, to be that hero of the story, and that they get to take that journey and look great along the way, because that's simply the way it should be. I think it's just a much more powerful way to move forward and collaborate, or work with people, work with a team. Obviously the work that you do, the work that I do. So it's hugely impactful.
Yeah, Scott, there's a couple of important points there. One, you talked about FUD, and you're right. I mean, psychographically, it's a fight or flight, response of the human race that's been built into our DNA and our passed down psyche, right? For fear to be a natural response, and that openly, we believe very much in being abundance minded around here. That's why. And fear is not abundance; it is the absolute opposite. And so, we try to stay away from, and granted, we kind of fell in, I would say 15 years ago, in our messaging and all that, we fell into that, that bandwagon of, jumping on the FUD fodder, right, sort of thing. And but over time, and being a conscientious sort of business, we looked at all that. We said that isn't how we want to position ourselves, and it's not how we want to speak to our clients, and it's not how we want to sell. We want to sell based upon helping our clients create competitive advantage and make strategic decisions that are smart for their business, right? So that's how we try to focus. Of course, educating on the real world threat that's out there, that's important, right? But I don't think that education has to translate to FUD. Education is empowerment, right, is the way that I look at it. And we don't spin it in a way where it's try to, get a fear-based response out of somebody so they buy something. We very much, again, it's this abundant sort of minded collaboration of, let's figure out what you and your business need so that we can help, provide you with the solutions and the services that are going to add value, right?
Yep. Nope. I think, just that's a great summary for anyone who's listening. Just listen to that or watch it again. The last 2 minutes, I think, just as a way to kind of root yourself in what's most important for yourself, your team, and your clients as well, and prospects when you communicate with them. So cool. Yeah. Well, why don't we go and take a short break, and we will be right back. Purple Finch Group helps technology CEOs innovating at the edge of chaos create operational fitness across their technology stack and team of talent. Achieving significant and measurable scale, selling your story, and finding time to think and plan can feel like a bridge too far. So if you're a CEO whose company has found product market fit, but is struggling, or you're a CEO whose company is looking to accelerate existing momentum, we can help with proven blueprints for optimal scale. Shifting from incremental addition to exponential multiplication can be absolutely achieved with less effort and stress. To get in touch, I can be reached at Scott with 2 T's at purplefinchgroup.com. Now, back to the interview. Well, we are back with Earl from Nexus. And so to shift gears maybe a little bit, you highlighted it a touch with our last question before the break. I always like to ask what type of work that you do now, gives you the most joy and energy. There's always lots of things around us that can pull energy out of us, but I think it's often important to talk about the joy and the energy and the positive energy as well.
Yeah, Scott, I think the kind of foundational answers, to that for me are, 26 years into our journey and our size and scale today, where my role is and where I really enjoy doing things. Because, when we started, I was an engineer, right? I was doing field services. I was, designing projects and installing, servers and, all that kind of stuff, right? And in my younger, career, I really enjoyed that. And it's not that I wouldn't enjoy it today. I really liked working with my hands. I loved, building server farms and racking and stacking and cable management, and then architecting it all, and then having it actually come to fruition. And that's part of what we do that I really always enjoyed from the engineer side. Today I'm definitely on the business leader side, and so for me, being the visionary and kind of the overall strategic voice of the organization, I really enjoy that. I really enjoy thinking, into the future, thinking about where the market's going, what our clients need now, what they're going to need later on, how the industry is, evolving and changing, and strategically, what we need to do to position ourselves to continue to add value for our clients and for the market, and to continue to be able to solve problems for new prospects that come along. And so I find a lot of purpose and meaning in all that. But beyond that, Scott, for me, I would call myself a mindful social entrepreneur. And what I mean by that is I find the greatest fulfillment in helping people see a greater vision and helping our people and teams achieve things that they never thought possible, right? I find my greatest fulfillment in helping humans grow and become better people and better professionals, right? Yeah. So that's part of, in fact, one of our core values here is a growth mindset. It's something we look for in candidates, and it's something that we very much try to adopt and live by here in this organization. And so, one of the other inherent sort of things that's been passed down through the human psyche are limiting beliefs. We all have and come programmed with some limiting beliefs. Some of those are our DNA. Some of those we pick up environmentally as we grow up, right? Sure. And those limiting beliefs, generally cap a person's capability to stretch themselves and to grow and to become a better version of themselves, right? Totally. And so we do a lot here at Nexus IT around just personal and professional development, and I share a lot of ideas with our teams. I've been through 15, 18 years of coaching, and I've actively work with a CEO coach who also coaches our entire leadership team every week, and I have a life coach, and so I've gained a lot of really great information over time that I'd like to share with the team. Every Friday I share 3 thoughts in 3 minutes, a message that goes out to the entire team, and oftentimes it's around just ideas that help kind of stretch the team's mindset. But beyond that, our mission, by the way, Scott, is to elevate the IT experience. We mean that for our clients, for our people, and for our community at large. And so for our people, we create an environment where they can do the best work of their career and where they're empowered to grow, they're empowered to achieve. We have, engineers and, back office staff that consistently are getting new certifications, right? That consistently get new degrees. We foster, we encourage, and in some cases, we help pay for our team members to grow their capabilities, their skill set. And again, I invest in coaching for the entire leadership team, so they can grow as people and leaders, and then they can take that growth and move it downstream within the organization to help individual contributors grow as people as well. So that's, for me, where I find the greatest fulfillment is, building people up, right? That, and then the impact we can have beyond our organization. We're an more outward-minded organization, who thinks about our community around us and what we can do to, help bolster that up. Those are the things that really kind of, fulfill me on the day-to-day, Scott. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting you mentioned that. So I'll fess up. I have 4 coaches do something somewhat similar. So one in fitness, hardcore meditation program for last 19 months or so. So mindfulness, getting behind the mind. I won't call him a life coach. I'll call him the coach who gets, focus on awareness and things like that behind the mind. And then there's one other one as well. Yeah, I've just found it to be that, and mentors, particularly say in the 2 masterminds that I'm a part of, have a speaking coach, and he does some other stuff as well. It's just hugely powerful. I don't need much accountability, but a little bit of a push every once in a while if I'm feeling a little bit of resistance towards something new is always helpful. But yeah, just to do that and then to go ahead and share that with other people. Obviously, I am a solopreneur at the moment, so it's just sharing with a wider audience and whatnot as well, as opposed to a team that you have yourself. But yeah, just hugely powerful. And I think we all have barriers. We've all got limitations that we've either developed, or it's been inherited, or it's in some way been shared with us, and we've taken it on board and had it be part of our at least temporary identity. To go ahead and really kind of challenge that stuff, I think, is just hugely powerful. It obviously changes an individual person. I'm sure you've changed in a great many ways. I certainly know that I have over the years, and it's just been I'll call it a powerful force for good. And so if anybody out there is wondering or hesitating about either a life coach or a CEO coach or whatever that might be that you would think would be valuable, the answer to that is yes. You go ahead and go after it, because it's going to be something that will impact you in all sorts of ways that you never really envisioned. And even if it's not quote unquote perfect in your own mind right now, that's just a story you tell yourself. So just go and do it anyway, and learn from the journey. It'll just be immensely impactful. So
yeah. By the way, Scott, I am a pretty major meditation mindfulness awareness geek. I have been for about 15 years, and I found it by way of coaching.
Good for
actually. Actually, my life coach still is the guy who really got me into meditation. It's definitely one of the things that I use to find balance and center myself and ground myself, and to remain, to geek out and to remain in a seat of consciousness a little bit, right? Because business has a way of presenting day-to-day situations and circumstances that can really take you out of center, right? If you're not very careful and mindful and remaining conscious about how you're approaching those challenges and then how you solve them, right? Because by default we fall into disempowering sort of loops, these hamster wheels that our mind goes through, right?
Totally.
And so that's it's been a major game changer for me, and then on the subject, on the topic of coaching. You think about, the world's greatest athletes, the greatest sports teams, right? You do not become a top performer solely by yourself, right?
100%.
In business, just as in sports, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Correct.
Your knowledge, your skills, your capabilities, your ability to lead, it's all limited, right? It's limited to, your limiting beliefs and what you know and what you've developed, right? And so I'm a firm believer, and I know some people are like, coach, whatever. That's kind of, that's kind of, I don't know, fuddy-duddy, whatever, sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, like, if you really want to be a top performer, Michael Jordan didn't become the GOAT, on his own, right? Certainly
Correct.
some raw, fantastic talent there, but he learned and grew through, coaching, and then became, one of the greatest athletes of all time, right? By having adequate humility and by having a growth mindset, not fixing his mindset on, I got it all figured out. I know what's going on, right? So yeah, it takes humility, but for me, like I'm so much happier today with the person I am, the CEO I am, the way I show up, within the business, but also just outside of the office, the husband, the father, the friend, and the person that I am, because I've leaned into growing every role in my life and becoming the best version of myself. And I'm not there, Scott. I'm not even a quarter of the way there, right? We have a long lifetime.
Yes, we do.
For me, that's what this lifetime. It's all about growth and expansion, right? That's what it's about.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I've not got 15 years worth of experience with meditation. I've been doing martial arts for that long, but I'm not not in terms of meditation. It's been about 20 months of pretty hardcore stuff. Also recommended to me by, I'll call it a life coach or an awareness coach and so forth. And it's been one of the most impactful things I've ever done. And the whole coaching side of things has also been very, very impactful as well. It's just, and I think it really informs your leadership. To use a bit of a musical reference, actually for jazz, just up the street from me, from McLean, Virginia, where I live, is called Wolf Trap. It's the only national park with a musical venue inside of it that gets managed. And this summer I ended up going to see Wynton Marsalis and his full team from the Lincoln Jazz Center. And what was really fascinating, I mean, beyond the amazing music, was the fact of his leadership style. So you might think he'd be right down in the front, in the middle, or something like that. No, he's 3 decks up. He's over in the corner, and he's always letting his team go ahead and shine, who are, predictably amazing, have, written their own works, shared their works. He highlighted every single one of those men throughout the evening as we kind of unfolded stuff. And then, of course, he, did share a little bit of his own magic as well, towards the end and throughout, but allowed them to lead. And then went ahead and followed and added, obviously, the work that he does. And I just think it's, just very, very powerful. And like yourself, I've noticed a shift in my leadership style, how I show up, whether it is in my, at martial arts training where I'm a senior instructor currently, or it's in other areas, even in simple presentations, or quite honestly at family stuff and so forth. It's been fascinating for me to just experience what has shifted, and then again, just how much more I describe it as ease and flow that I have. And like you, I'm maybe 25% of the way there. It might be 15%. I still have a long way to go. But it has been, just hugely powerful. So I guess my personal message to anybody who ends up watching or listening to this would be, if you're kind of on the fence about it, the answer is yes. Go ahead and make it happen, make it a priority, and just make it something where you are making it is an investment in yourself. It's not an expense, and to think of it as such. Like security, even if it is through a compliance lens, will provide you with an enormous amount of advantage. Yeah.
No, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. Yeah.
So how can, as we end up here, as we're almost finished up, how, if people want to get in touch with you, either to connect, or it's that vCISO, or it might be, that team or whatever, just to connect, what would be the best way to do that with yourself?
Yeah, very good. So I'm quite active on LinkedIn and Instagram. So look up Earl Foote from Nexus IT there. For our organization, of course, any social media platform. Our website is nexusitc.net. And certainly I'm always open for fun conversations and open to add value and serve and help people. Right. So reach out. I'm happy to be of help however I can be.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I think it's an easy way. I'm also someone who, and many of people who will listen will be obviously heavy LinkedIn users. That will be, it's a powerful platform. Well, cool. Well, Earl, I really want to thank you for accepting the invitation to be on the Disciplined Troublemakers podcast. It's been a great chat. I really appreciate you sharing, the business and the personal stuff as well. And I hope for anyone who is interested in getting in touch with Earl goes ahead and does that. And we will be back with another episode of the Disciplined Troublemakers podcast very soon. Thank you for tuning into the Disciplined Troublemakers podcast, and we hope you found the episode valuable. If you did, please subscribe to the Disciplined Troublemakers podcast on your favorite platform and leave a review. Putting this podcast together is a group effort, so I'd like to provide a shout out to Heartcast Media and their team for all of the assistance they provide with each episode. If you want to get in touch with me directly, I can be reached at Scott with 2 T's at purplefinchgroup.com. Purple Finch Group is the sponsor of this podcast. We have another podcast episode out very shortly. Stay tuned.